Welcome back, audience and viewers of Kundutu TV, to the IBS School Debate Competition semi-finals here in Kokopo, hosted by Kokopo Secondary. We will now have the two schools. The topic for debate is first past the post is better than LPV, and this is brought to us by one of the sponsors, Electoral Commission. Vutmei Secondary is going for the topic, and St. Mary's Vuvu is going against the topic. If I can call upon the two schools to take the stage. Introducing the Vutmei Secondary team. Going for the topic, first past the post is better than LPV. The first speaker for Vutmei Secondary is Sharon Leslie. She's 20 years of age, in grade 12, from New Ireland, and would like to be a high school teacher in the future. And the second speaker of Vutmei Secondary is Israel Talia, 19 years of age, in grade 12, and would like to be a cadet engineer in future. The third speaker of Vutmei Secondary is Kisma Pitil, 20 years of age, in grade 12, from New Ireland Province, and would like to be an accountant in the future. And the last and final speaker of Vutmei Secondary is Jeremy John, 20 years of age, in grade 12, also from New Ireland Province, and would like to be an accountant. So round of applause for the Vutmei Secondary team. Introducing the St. Mary's Vuvu Secondary team. The first speaker is Trevor Passman, 18 years of age, in grade 12, from East New Britain, and would like to be a doctor in future. And the second speaker of St. Mary's Vuvu Secondary is Paul Robin, 19 years of age, in grade 12, from East New Britain, and would like to be an electrical engineer in future. And the third speaker of St. Mary's Vuvu Secondary is Edward Wungia, 19 years of age, grade 12, from East New Britain Province, and would like to be an accountant in future. And the last and final speaker of St. Mary's Vuvu Secondary team is Lucas Momo, 19 years of age, in grade 12, from East New Britain Province, and would like to be a mechanic. So round of applause for St. Mary's Vuvu Secondary team. Can I ask the two teams to shake hands and take their seat? Let us give a round of applause for our educators. Jacinta Sipa from Kokopo Secondary, Bachelor of Education, currently doing Masters in Leadership in Education and 12 years of teaching experience. A round of applause for Jacinta Sipa. And of course, our Mr. John Iko from Port Moresby. A round of applause for Mr. John Iko. And Mr. Jerry Katoa from Vuna Bosco. He's got 10 years of experience in teaching. So round of applause for three of our adjudicators. Thank you. And our timekeeper, Mr. Donald Nala. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the semi-finals here in Kokopo, IBS School Debate Competition hosted by Kundutu, and is proudly brought to you by our partners, Kundutu and NBC, and New Guinea, our official carrier, major sponsors, NCDC, Governor Powers Pakop, National Gaming Control Board, Electoral Commission, Office of Climate Change, LNA Group of Companies, NASFAN, Brian Bell, Ipatus Foundation for the Younger Debate, and Honorable Luther Wenger for Lay Debate, and of course, thank you to Kokopo Secondary for hosting the debate competition. Let the competition begin. The topic for debate is first past the post is better than LPV. Vutmei Secondary going for the topic, and St. Mary's Vuvu Secondary is going against the topic. I may now call upon the first speaker of Vutmei Secondary, Sharon Leslie.
Thank you, Chairperson. my fellow debaters, and not forgetting you, the faithful floors. As our topic states, first past the post is better than LPV. To define the topic, first past the post simply means it describes a voting system in which a winner needs to receive more votes than anyone else, but does not need any absolute majority of the vote cast. As for the LPV, this new system, which was introduced and followed in 2007, means giving a chance to other candidates so that there'll be a good competition in elimination. Whether it is first past post or LPV, they are nothing more but strategies for electing people. For the sake of us sitting here, we haven't been into the system of voting, but I strongly believe that some of us are into the age that are required to vote. The old system of voting is when somebody goes to a box with pictures of the candidates and just put a single X. And this new system is when you go to the pictures, you see the pictures, there will be provided pictures of the candidates, and you will go and choose the best leader which you think will control your country, and then the guest leaders which you don't really trust them, but just for the sake of the system that each issue you must fill 1, 2, 3, so you go in there and choose the first one which you think it will be your leader, and then 1 and 2 is just your guess. As to introduce my topic, as the first speaker, I'll be talking about the economical aspect of the topic. My second speaker, he will be talking about the social aspect. The third speaker, she'll be talking about the political aspect. And our last and final speaker, he'll be summarizing and he will be doing the recommendation. To my points, whether it is first past or post or LPV, we are nothing more than strategies for electing people, manage people and resources of a company so that the vision of living the best and meaningful is achieved in our societies. And the light of this definition, first past the post, is better than LPV. Because, number one, it is more job focused. As you can see, when somebody goes to go and choose the candidates, the first past the post is we just go, stand there, see the candidate, which is the best and which one we think that it can carry out each job to controlling the country. We'll just go put the X and there it goes. And when that person get the most X after the counting, that best leader will be our leader of our country. But if you see this old system, new system, which is LPV, limited professional voting, you go there, choose the first one, and then because of the system says you must fill all the boxes, then you stand there and stare at the boxes. Which one will be the second and which one will be the third? Not knowing that, at last, you will find out that first leader which you think he will become your leader will not win, but the person which you put number 3 on will be the person who will win the vote. My number 2 point is less time consuming. The old system is we don't need, it doesn't take long to do the elimination or the counting. It doesn't go through long process of counting, whereas this LPV, you will take weeks and some days in order for this counting to end. So to stand firm on our topic, this LPV is more costly and is costing our government much than first past the post, which is the old system.
Round of applause for the first speaker of Vutmei Secondary, Sharon Leslie. Let me now call upon the first speaker of St. Mary's River Secondary, going against the topic, first past the post is better than LPV, Trevor Passman.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson. Sorry about that. And those of you who consider yourself as audience out there, this one goes to you too. As you all can see, I am the first speaker of the opposition side. We'll be going against the topic which has been presented by the chair lady and our rivals on the other side. Now, before I can proceed on with my points, I'd like to take this opportunity to shine a little bit of light on my colleagues and myself. As I'm the first speaker, I'll be doing some enlightenment on the topic and trying my best to convince you that our topic is the best. My second speaker will be talking about how fair LPV is in comparison to first past the post, and our third speaker will be talking about the worthiness of LPV. And our last speaker will be mainly doing summing up and tying up loose ends. I just hope he doesn't tie himself up in the process. As already stated, we'll be going against the topic. Therefore, our topic will be first past the post is not better than LPV. As during the course of the debate, you'll see that we'll be in favor of the LPV system. And what is LPV? LPV is the acronym for Limited Preferential Voting. This is a system of voting that gives voters 3 choices instead of 1. It has been derived from a system of voting known as full preferential voting, wherein the number of preferences are restricted to the number of candidates contesting. During polling, voters are required to put the candidates according to the first, second, and third preferences. This is usually discerned by the numbers 1, 2, and 3. After the voting, there comes the counting. During the counting, the candidate with the lowest number of votes is eliminated, and his ballots are then distributed accordingly to the second and the third preferences on the ballots. Given that, we can see that in LPV, it's anyone's game. You can get 100 people putting you as the first preference, but the second and third preference can still come and take you down. Given that, it is advantageous because leaders or candidates that are contesting, they see that it is important for them to come down to ground level and gain the preference from as much voters as possible. And when this happens, you'll see that there'll be a lot of leaders down in the villages trying to gain support from their voters. And when this happens, it also gives birth to the leaders gaining insight from the people's struggles in their lives. That's why we, the opposition, say that we see that first past the post is not better than LPV because first past the post requires the leaders to come down to ground level to get support and preference from the people. And simultaneously, they'll be aware of what their people are going through. Given that, with the opposition of this day, we stand firm on our grounds and say that first past the post is not better than LPV. Thank you for your ears. You can have them back now.
Round of applause for the first speaker of St. Mary's Vivu Secondary Team, Trevor Passman. I would like to now call upon the second speaker of Vutmei Secondary going for the topic, first past the post is better than LPV, Israel Talia.
Thank you, Chairperson, adjudicators, my opposing team, and for the good audience. Okay, before I go into my points, I would like to rebut on what the first speaker of the opposing team has said. He stated something about LPV. In fact, I'm telling you that LPV is not a proper way of electing a leader because this is like a probability of choosing your leader because you know, when you put your first choice as your leader, and the second, and the third is which like randomly just put them, and if one and two they become to win, then this is not go well with what your choice is about to be. Okay. To my points. First past the post is easy and understandable to all the illiterate and literal Papua New Guineans. And whereas the LPV is a long procedure thing, and it consumes most times, and many problems may accumulate with it. Okay, before in those past years, the old elections the old procedure of election is first past the post. Okay, first past the post is like first past the post is when first past the post is good for the illiterate ones because they're the unfortunate one because they cannot read and write, and the only thing they do is put an X on an appropriate box next to the portrait of the candidates, which they think they will become good leaders for them. Okay. And but today, LPV, when they introduced the LPV in place when they introduced LPV in place of first past the post, this give hard time and achievement to the illiterate ones because you know those LPV, it includes reading and understanding. It includes most reading and understanding. So when the voting team went to go to area to conduct the election, those illiterate ones, they will be run away because they are unfortunate one who cannot read and write, and only those who can read and write, they will conduct the vote. Okay, I give an example. Like that LPV system is removing all the good leaders, the quality leaders out of the seat, because the LPV is like anybody's game that you can win. And it's like anybody's game that can be okay. I take up one example about it is in 2007 when the LPV was introduced into Papua New Guinea. When they conducted election in Papua New Guinea, most countries in the most provinces in the countries, they face up with those ballot papers with invalid ballot box with invalid papers in them, because you know what? Those people who said for who are the voters, they didn't understand what the LPV system is. They don't get the firm understanding about how LPV is and how it will come about to the life, how it will come about to their lives. That's all. Thank you.
Round of applause for the second speaker of Vutmei Secondary, Israel Talia. Let me now introduce to you our second speaker of St. Mary's Vuvu Secondary team going against the topic, first past the post is better than LPV. Let us make welcome Paul Robin.
Thank you, Chair Lady, the audience. Now, before I give out my points, I'd like to rebut on what the second speaker of the affirmative side said something about informality. Informality is the number of votes that cannot be counted due to certain mistakes made by the voters. That's one of the problem with this voting system. Now, I will rebut and say something here. I'll take you to a classical example. During the 2007 general election, the number of informal votes in the 4th district here compared to Pomio. Pomio was have a least number of informalities, the number of votes. But compared to districts in Rabaul, Yasel, and Kokopo, there is no reason why the number of informalities here were high. Because, we are living in urban areas and we have access to education. But now, LPV comes with a policy. When the Electoral Commission give out the policy, they said that if you cannot read and write, then somebody will be available to assist you in voting. I think many of us, informality is nothing to do with the system. It's just the attitude of the people out there. They just want to show others that I can read and write. Therefore, just goes into the polling booth and he mess it up. Now, to my points. My first point is, elected candidate is the one preferred by most voters. This is mainly talking about the absolute majority. Now, the aim of the LPV is to know that majority of the voters will vote for that leader. I'll take you to a classical example. If I have 100 candidates and I have 100 voters and I have 5 candidates. Now the first candidate collects 20 votes, the second candidate collects another 20, third candidate collects 40, and the two last candidates collect 10 each. Now who wins the election here? The third candidate with a total of 40. Now 40 is not the absolute majority, that is less. And 60 out of those voters voted against that leader. In a sense, you can see that it is not fair. Only a minority group voted for that leader. And that was what first past the post was was like the system. If you follow the system, then you would come across this kind of a situation. Now, my second point, the voters given more than one choices with the new system of voting, LPV. Now, you must understand clearly that one cannot be, 1, 2, 3 have the same value. If you put 1, 2, and 3, those 3 choices have the same value. Doesn't mean that you have to put 1, then the first choice will win the election. No. It's a matter of you trying to practice your democratic right, freedom of choice, you choosing a leader. Like with the first past the post system, I mainly see that there were many block voters that leads to corruption. Like the leaders were able to stand beside those voters, give them money and tell them, you vote for me, because there was only one option. Then people, because they have that money in their pockets, they just go and vote. And that is not a proper way of voting. We see the level of corruption in Papua New Guinea is increasing because people are just blindly enough to see things happening in their mind. LPV system trying to understand that you have a freedom of choice. Give you the freedom of you choosing a best leader that can steer a nation, but not elected into parliament and bring corruption overnight. Thank you.
Round of applause for the second speaker of St. Mary's View Secondary, Paul Robin. Let me now call upon the third speaker of Vutmei Secondary, going for the topic, first past the post is better than LPV, Kisma Pito.
Chair Lady, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to bring to you across the political views of the topic. But before proceeding on, I would like to rebut on what the second speaker of the opposing team has said. He said, LPV promotes democracy, like you have a freedom of choice. But I would like to make it clear here that LPV doesn't give you any chances to fulfill your choice for the best leader that you want, because people's mentality is they see that when the person that they put on first place is the best leader that they want. So, but somehow they will find out that the person that they put on the third preference is the one that wins. So this is where abuse of the freedom of choice comes in. Okay, now on to my points. I have 3 points to bring across to you. The first one is, first past the post is more job focused. First past the post is more democratic, and first past the post has a tendency to separate best leaders criteria from all sorts of criteria that has no relation with good leadership. Okay, on to my first point. First past the post is more job focused, meaning that in context to the voting of best leaders, first past the post is the best, because when it comes to choosing the best leaders, there is only one best leader and not 3. Okay, whilst LPV, your first choice is the choice that you wanted to is your best choice, which simply means that that's the leader that you want. And unfortunately, the person that you put on first place cannot win because of your other two preference. Secondly, first past the post is more democratic. Okay, in our constitutional law, it states that all of us, we have a right to choice. But LPV cannot allow us because we have three choices. But how can we be able to choose the one and only leader that we want? Okay, let's take a look at this example. In an electorate, there is candidate A, B, and C. Okay, I put 1 on candidate A, and 2 on candidate B, 3 on candidate C. As well as all other, like majority of the people in that electorate. But when it comes to the counting of the votes, we found out that the member that we put on 3 lost. So that I will consider as it's not a true win. It just win by chance. And we can call it as a lucky win. Okay, thirdly, first past the post has the tendency to separate through leadership criteria from all sorts of criteria that has nothing to do with good leadership. Okay, as we see, the former voting system, if we go and cast our vote, like we put an X, okay, we will not consider, like, if that candidate is our one talk or he give us a lot of money. Whereas in this first vote, in this LPV system of voting, we will consider a lot of irrelevant criteria. Therefore, I strongly stand on with the affirmative team, we strongly stand on our grounds and say that first past the post is better than LPV. Thank you.
Round of applause for the third speaker of Vutmei Secondary, Kisma Pitil. I would like to now call upon the third speaker of St. Mary's Vuvu Secondary going against the topic, first past the post is better than LPV, Edward Wungia.
Thank you, Chairperson, audience. As the third speaker of the opposition side, I will be mainly presenting my top points on the worthiness of LPV system and first past the post accommodates bribery. But before I go on to my points, I'd like to rebut on what the third speaker of the government or the affirmative team has mentioned. They mentioned something about past the post is more democratic. How can it be democratic when the winning leaders only represents 50% voters? How can it be? Back to my points. Worthiness of the LPV system. The LPV system takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money, and so on. However, it's worth it. It is worth it because the leader that is being elected is fully represent the absolute majority. Okay, to paint a clear picture on that, let me take you back to the example which our second speaker talked about. He talked about he gave an example of 100 voters to 5 candidates. Now, the candidate A gets 20 voters, candidate B gets another 20, candidate C gets 50, candidate D gets 10, and candidate E also gets 10. Now, the winning leader is with the highest score. Now, that does not represent the absolute majority. That means that only 40 of the whole population preferred that particular leader. But what about the 60 people? Does it fair? Second point, LPV gives or accommodates bribery. In first past the post system, the voters are restricted to vote for only one candidate. This does not sound democratic, isn't it? In that way, it encourages bribery. Being that the leader is confident that he can bribe for or buy those choices, then there's no question about that. He knows that he'll be the leader. Now let me take you to the example of the 2002 national election. Under the first past the post system up in the islands, generally the women did not vote. The conditions or the surroundings environment does not allow the women to cast their votes. Now that's a clear example of bribery. Yeah. The leader bribed the leader bribed certain the highest number of the population to vote for him, and those numbers that have been bribed are not the absolute majority. So with all of those, we the government opposition side strongly go against the topic that first past the post is not better is better than LPV system. Thank you.
Round of applause for the third speaker of St. Mary's River Secondary Team, Edward Wungia. Ladies and gentlemen and viewers of Kundu 2, this is the semi-finals between Vutmei Secondary and St. Mary's Vuvu. We will soon find out after this who will be the two schools that will go into the finals tomorrow. The topic for debate today is first past the post is better than LPV. Vutmei Secondary going for the topic and St. Mary's Vuvu Secondary going against the topic. I would like to now call upon the final speaker of Vutmei Secondary going for the topic, Jeremy John.
Thank you, Chair Lady, and my fellow faithful audience. Before I go on to summarizing all the points of the argument, I would like to firstly rebut on what the first, second, and third speaker of the opposing team has mentioned. The first mentioned something about sharing votes. Well, do you know that, actually you know that in LPV, they share votes after somebody's eliminated from the counting. So, in LPV, when they say votes, do you think it is fair? Because it is not actually the votes of that, it is not actually that person that the people are voting. It is other people's vote that they voted that person. I'll put it this way, the member A that they voted, and then they said the member A's votes to the member B. So what do you think? Is LPV fair? it is not fair because they said the vote is not, it doesn't belong to that person, member B, it belongs to that member A. So when they eliminated him, they gave his votes to the second member, which is not fair. And the second speaker, he mentioned something about informal votes. Well, he said that we all live in, urban areas, huh? Please, open your eyes. All of us are not living in the urban areas. Look at us, we the mining people. We live so remote, huh? We're in the remote areas. We are not in the urban areas. And you gave an example of the Pomio people. Actually, they are not there. They did not live in the urban areas. They're in the rural areas. And he talks about best leaders, huh? Well, LPV, this LPV system, it does not bring about best leaders. Because in the whole system, first past the post, you definitely know that this person is the right person for me to choose. So you put an X. Other than considering nonsenses about 2 and 3, you just put an X and they give you marks indicating that you voted. So when your candidate won, you will be very happy. Whereas now, I'll give an example. Member A and member B. So people want member A to win. So they'll go and put 1 on member A. And they'll forget about the 2 and 3, so they just misuse this 2 and 3, they just throw it to the other candidates. So without realizing, they've given the win to the member B. And the third speaker mentioned something about bribery. Please don't talk about bribery, because bribery has been there, it is here, and will be in the future. It will be still present in the future. So he mentioned also something about democratic. He said that the old system is not democratically right. Well, I tell you that the old system is democratically right because according to the Constitution of Papua New Guinea, we have freedom of choice. So freedom of choice, we have, in the old system, we have only one choice, so we know that the person is going to win. We trust him, so that we put all our trust, faith in him, so that he's going to win. Now, to summarizing all the points. Before I go and summarize, I would like to re-emphasize and redefine that topic on first past the post. First past the post is usually concerned with the leader, candidate, winning by most votes and not the absolute majority. Whereas the LPV system, it gives a chance to other candidates so that there will be a nice competition and elimination going on. To the points, to the economical side, it is more job focused. As you've heard, our participants have said, it is job focused in the context of voting a candidate. You see, when we go for voting a candidate, we go for the best. And the best, there is only one best, and not 3 best. So bear that in mind. And the old system, it uses less time. Less time meaning less resources. And when you see LPV, they are going around making awareness almost 2 to 3 weeks. And before, I'll give an example. Before, you see the, ballot papers they used to vote with. There's only one ballot paper with faces of different candidates on it so that you can put an X to whoever you want to be your candidate. And nowadays, almost, for example, if one for me, I'm a candidate, and she's a candidate, he's a candidate, there will be different papers. So it needs a lot of resources, and money is being wasted. Whereas the money government is wasting on this nonsense should be used to, used in developments or other useful things. And whole system, it is cheaper, as I've mentioned. Today, as you can see, when LPV was implemented in 2007, there were many informal votes, meaning invalid, votes that are not valid. People do not vote properly because they don't understand LPV. LPV is complicated. And I guess that all of you sitting down there, you don't know much about LPV. So let us teach you about LPV. LPV is a bit silly, I tell you. LPV is not right. I'm not saying it is stupid. I'm saying it's just a bit silly. So what I'm trying to get across is, I'm trying to tell you that the old system is better than LPV. We are not saying it is the best, because if we say it is the best, then there will be no mistakes done whatsoever. It will be perfect. But then, there are still mistakes. But what we are trying to get across to your attention is to tell you that the old system is better than LPV. And on the political side, it is my third speaker mentioned that it is the tendency to separate through leadership criteria. Meaning, when you go for vote in the old system, you have only one choice. And you knew that your choice is the right one, the best one. So without considering irrelevant considerations of 1, 2, 3, or whatsoever, you just go and put an X, rather than wasting your time 1, 2, 3 or not. And about the old system is an original win. It is not a false win or whatsoever. Whereas, the LPV, it is a fluke win, meaning it occurred by chance. Like probability you've learned in maths. The chance of that leader winning is very small. But then, you'll be surprised that he won the contest. So, you'll be very upset, angry, and you'll go on complaining. Because I've had a lot of complaining, because I've done a little research and I found out that people were complaining about that leader who is in parliament now or whatsoever. Okay, on the social side, it is very easy and understandable. Like if you want to go and explain to a placement, so you just go and said, you just go and the ballot paper, you just put an X. Whereas now if you go and explain to him limited preferential voting, he will ask you, what is this nonsense? What is this limited preferential voting? Okay, to freedom of choice. We all have freedom of choice, like I've mentioned already. Like our constitution has said, we all have freedom of choice. So, LPV does not give us the freedom of choice to choose for our leaders. So, when we go in there, like, they will be around, so if you do not put, you put 1, and if you do not put 2 and 3, your vote will be counted as invalid. And then it will be a waste of time, waste of resources, waste of money. And then it leads to the drainage of economy of Papua New Guinea. I'm not saying it drains the economy. I'm saying it leads to draining the economy of Papua New Guinea. And according to a resource book, grade 9 social science outcome resource book on page 366, it states that only fair elections truly reflect the will of the majority of the people. So, if we are talking about fair elections, then we should consider first past the post, because it is a true election. We go for the first choice, other than considering bullshits. And lastly, on the LPV, the old system, we have less chance of making mistakes in the counting. Whereas in the new system, LPV, people make mistakes in counting, because we have counting 1 and then they will be sharing votes and all that, sharing the 2s and the 3s. I think 4s also. Oh? No, not 4, 3. And to the recommendation, we the affirmative side, we strongly stand our ground and believe that the old system is still better than the new system, which is LPV 1, 2, 3. We are not saying it is the best, but we are just saying it is better than the old system, according to the points that we've brought across to you. And we hope that we convince you that the first past the post is still better than LPV.
The final speaker of Vutmei Secondary going for the topic, first past the post is better than LPV, Jeremy John. Let me now introduce to you our final speaker for St. Mary's Vutmei Secondary team going against the topic, first past the post is better than LPV, Lucas Momo.
Lady, my fellow audiences. As the fourth and final speaker of the opposition side, I will mainly summarizing our points and going through our recommendations. But firstly, before I go on with our summaries, I would like to rebut on the points that has been mentioned by the government side. They mentioned something about first past the post system does not require majority or absolute majority of people. But we, Papua New Guinea, is a democratic country. We have the decision to make our choices. Papua New Guinea, as a democratic country, we have the decision to make in order for our leaders to represent us in the floor of the parliament. So, for when we are in our remote villages or areas and only minority of our people or population elects a leader to represent us in the parliament, that is not fair. It will not have the good relationship between us and our leaders. Our leaders will not have this good relationship with the people, and the lackness of development, participation, accountability will be the fact or will be the risk arising between the relationship of our government and the people. About the informalities, they mentioned something about informalities. Informalities, it is true when the LPV has been implemented or it has been demonstrated to Papua New Guinea. Majority of the people, majority of informalities have been found. However, these informalities, it gives us the statistics, it helps our government to know how many of us above the age of 18 is educated, literally educated, not illiterally. Our majority of us above the age of 18 is not educated. So the government can concern about its population and can look furthermore into our education, the side of education to educate its population. The unfairness and the economic inefficiency. The first past the post system, it is economically inefficient. This first past the post system, being when demonstrated previously and now it has been changed and it is been changed by the LPV. The first past the post system during the past of Papua New Guinea, it has not been providing good leadership to our country. They mentioned something also about time consuming. Yeah, LPV consumes time, it consumes our effort, it needs our effort, and also our money. However, LPV, we are dealing about leaders that will lead us in the future. And we need time, effort, and money so that the leaders that we choose, they represent us rightfully, honestly, truthfully in the floor of parliament. Now, to summarize our points. LPV accompanies the opportunity of us, we as Papua New Guinean citizens. We as Papua New Guinean citizens have the opportunity to vote for 3 leaders. We have the right to choose from 3 leaders. However, if minority of the people choose put their first choices as the first, choose the first candidate. However, the other majority of the candidates prefer the other two. Therefore, majority speaks, and the person that has the minority of votes, it does not need, or it is not needed to represent us in the floor of parliament, because we majority, when we vote our leader to represent us in the floor of parliament, we will have this relationship between our leaders, and the development and economic efficiency will develop in our remote areas in our country. It encourages candidates to work personally for their votes. The LPV votes, it prevents bribery. It encourages each candidate to work rightfully and personally for the votes for each citizens, so that they can support him and they can have this trust in him, so that he can represent them in the floor of parliament. Bribery, on bribery points. Bribery is when we, the candidates, have the money and they bribe the citizens of a country, majority of people, to vote for him. However, this is not honesty. This is unaccountability. Honesty is not part in this situation. Therefore, our leaders must have this honesty in them, so that they can represent us truthfully in the floor of parliament. In the LPV prevents bribery, because when somebody bribes a population, majority of the population, minority of the population, to vote for him, well, they can put the first choice for him, but however, they have the second and the third preferences that are available of their other trust and honestful leaders that they trust, that can stand or that can be more future leaders than the one that they choose. About the valuable of the tree. We have the right to choose from three leaders, because three leaders have the same valuable in them. When we choose the first leader, the second and the third, they all have the same valuable in them. However, the first one, we value the first choice more than the other two preferential. Going back to LPV, Papua New Guinea is a developing country, and the first past the post system, it is an original system for Papua New Guinea. However, we as a country, we are still developing, and we are developing. Therefore, we need these new systems demonstrated and introduced into our country, so that we can abide by these systems and we can be known as developing, and we become a developed country in our future life. First past the post system. First past the post system accompanies, or it endures development. How does it endorse development? First past the post endures development when leaders are not trustfully, or leaders are not honest in the floor of parliament, and when leaders are not being honest and trustfully by the citizens of the country or the people, they will not have the courage, or they will not have the mind, or I will say, they do not have the courage or the mind, or they do not have the skills to develop a country or a nation. They are being selected because of what dishonesty they have made in their voting electorate. Now, this goes to my recommendation of our opposition side. As the opposition side, we recommend that we, all the masses of Papua New Guinea, we as a democratic nation, we in terms of LPV, should provide a including and sustainable knowledge to our people so that they can encourage, they can discourage the likeness of our leaders or our candidates which demonstrate the likeness of bribery and violence in our nation. Therefore, as the opposition side, we strongly stand on our grounds and we strongly believe that the first past the post system is not better than LPV. Thank you.
Round of applause for the final speaker of St. Mary's Village Secondary, Lucas Momo, the team going against the topic, first past the post is better than LPV. Ladies and gentlemen and viewers, that has brought us to the end of our semifinals. Soon we will find out which two schools are going to advance to the finals tomorrow. So whatever the outcome is, we're all winners. But you have done extremely well, a great presentation, and I hope you all have enjoyed it. So thank you very much, and round of applause for the two schools, Vutmei Secondary and St. Mary's Village Secondary. Thank you very much. You may now shake hands and take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, IBS School Debate Competition is proudly brought to you by our partners, Kundutud, NBC, New Guinea, our official carrier, major sponsors, NCDC Governor Powers Pakop, National Gaming Control Board, Electoral Commission, Office of Climate Change, LNA Group of Companies, NASFAN, Brian Bell, Ipatus Foundation for Anger Debate, and Honorable Luther Wenge for the Lay Debate. And of course, thank you to Kokopo Secondary for hosting the IBS School Debate Competition here in Kokopo. So round of applause for everyone. And I'm sure we all have learned something, and we are keen to know which two schools are going to make it to the finals tomorrow. Congratulations to all the schools that have made it to the semifinals. A big round of applause to everyone, to the teachers, the participants especially. This is your competition, and I'm sure that you're all enjoying